All right. Good morning. I'm digging into this do not pay case study, editing it for clarity, for interest, for making it conversational. I've got a little bit of a admission here. I think editing is more fun than writing. I love digging into big pieces like this, pulling out the main kernels, figuring out how to connect the dots a bit, especially when I get to do it basically in my PJs from home. Tommy sent this to me. He's actually in the doc right now. I'll try to pretend that doesn't make me nervous. And it is a 5,000 word case study on how content distribution helped do not pay grow their organic sessions by a lot over a couple of years, with 120,000 keywords on page one. So super impressive case study. I'm excited to dig into it. I took a look through before starting recording just to kind of get my head around what this was all about. And I'm actually going to start with something a little bit different. Instead of going line by line and editing in the classic sense, I'm going to pull out what I think are the most important parts here. And really there are what I see as 4 different articles within this one piece in the doc. There's one that is very much a case study on helping do not pay rank. There's another one on kind of a hot take on backlinks and technical SEO and why those elements might not matter as much as you might think. There's another one on building the content distribution team, the team of writers that they use to get this much content out. And then there was another one in here too. Maybe we'll find it as we go through. So I'm actually going to pull each of these elements out first, then focus in on the case study element itself. So first of all, I'll go ahead and create a new doc, and we'll pull all the do not pay case study elements into here. First of all, let me just scroll through and explain what I'm talking about. So this starts very much about do not pay, has some great statements about why it was a successful campaign. Then it jumps into a little bit more big picture of how content distribution works and some of the other clients they've worked with some additional links. And then it jumps back to do not pay and sets it up more of what you would typically think of as a case study, setting up what they do, what they're about, a little bit of earned media, social proof there. And then it jumps down into, what I think is a great discussion on backlinks and technical SEO. But between already, you can see just in these first few pages, it kind of jumps around a lot. So coming into it as a reader, let alone as a writer, I'm not really sure what the focus of this is, let alone what the purpose is of including all of these elements in. So that's why I'm kind of taking a step back and suggesting that we separate these out as separate pieces instead of trying to make something a cohesive whole out of what's here. This is a little bit more on do not pay. It jumps back to them. A lot more on kind of the strategy of very local SEO and very specific long tail keywords. And then again, it jumps more to the content distribution production approach, and a discussion on backlinks again, a discussion on technical SEO, which again, I think is great, but between the backlinks and the technical SEO, I think it just gets bogged down into the nitty gritty of these elements instead of making it big picture, not a big picture, but a cohesive narrative on the do not pay case specifically. So there's a lot here we can pull out into a separate piece. Same here on Search Console issues, same here on keyword research. That's what the other piece was specifically on getting more efficient with keyword research. So we'll pull that out as well using a cluster AI tool. I'll go back up to the top, I promise. I just wanted to give you kind of a big picture of what I'm thinking here. And then this is where kind of the real deep dive on how they scale their content production works, which is a great case study in and of itself. I just think it maybe takes away from the work that they did with Do Not Pay specifically, because none of this is specifically about the project with Do Not Pay. It's about building their team, what he did to build their team as a whole. Same basically all the way down to the bottom to what they're looking for, and then it comes back to an outro, but really without coming back to Do Not Pay and connecting it to Do Not Pay. So it's really just using, at this point, it's using Do Not Pay as the headline. Look, these are the results we got for Do Not Pay, and then jumps around to backlinks, technical SEO, keyword research, and building a content team. So I'd like to take these 5,000 words, 5,700 words, really narrow in on, 1,000 to 1,500 words that are about Do Not Pay, and then pull everything else out into separate articles. So let's go ahead and do that, starting with Do Not Pay. This part is about Do Not Pay, so we'll pull that in. I'm just going to copy and paste the start, and then we'll go back and clean it up. This is more about content distribution, the company as a whole, so we'll leave that in. It's got some resources. This one jumps back to Do Not Pay, so I'll add that into the new doc. This goes to backlinks, which again just feels disconnected from, it goes into what their whole strategy is with content production, but it just feels disconnected from Do Not Pay as a whole. Let's see. This screenshot specifically is Do Not Pay, so we can probably find a good spot for that. Great to see Dan Sanchez in here, but again, not specifically about Do Not Pay. We'll say the opportunity is, this is great because it connects, these bullets connect back to, let's see, way up here, where it's saying basically all the services they offer. So it's saying, here's their services, here's what people are searching for. So I definitely get the strategy already. It's just, I think, to its detriment that there's such a large gap between talking about what Do Not Pay does versus what the opportunity and strategy was here. Strategy here, that's Do Not Pay. We'll pull that out. Up to that section. And really, I should have been deleting this as I went. Let me do that real quick. This is completely live, not practice, so bear with me as I do it. Actually, we'll leave that one in because we can use that as proof in another one, in the article on content without backlinks. We'll leave that in. Take this out. Yeah. So this already, this is a great header for a standalone article. Best SEO campaigns don't look like SEO, and then that sets up to talk about technical SEO, backlinks versus velocity in content production. Opportunity, take that out because that went into the other doc. This one seems a little out of the blue, so we'll add a comment, come back to it. Content production. This is a little bit about the client and a little bit not. Let's leave that part in, but leave the rest out. Because we can use this for another standalone article. Same with backlinks, Campus Reel, Doggypedia, technical SEO, mobile speed and friendliness. So that whole section is on technical SEO as a whole, which probably came to bear on the engagement strategy with do not pay, but it's not really clear that it did with how it's written currently. Let's see which elements here we can pull out. Yeah, so all of this is on keyword research as a whole, but none of it is about the strategy for do not pay specifically. So let's go ahead and skip that for now. But what we can do, and here's what I'll add into this doc when we jump over to it, is each of these elements, backlinks and why that didn't feel like it mattered as much, technical SEO, why that didn't feel like it mattered as much, and keyword research, most importantly, what this approach looked like for do not pay specifically. So there is one, there's one element that digs into this use case specifically. So let's see. 37,000 keywords. That one goes into do not pay. Great. So add that in. Take that part out. Framework, we can add that, and I'll leave it in that doc because it's relevant to a standalone piece on keyword research, but add it in here and basically add a note to make it a little more specific to do not pay, or at least connect the dots. And then this whole section goes into building the content team and scaling content production. But again, none of it relates back to do not pay specifically, at least that I saw. So really, actually, I might do this. I must use the Spanish phrase "de una vez," like right now, to separate this out. Find people. Great. So let's do that. This whole section is really could, once edited, could stand alone as a piece on scaling building a content team, what goes into it. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Let me copy that, make a new doc. Do not pay adaptation. Building a content team / scaling content production. This is close to a couple thousand words. Yeah, just over a couple thousand words. So a lot there to work with for a different article. So I'm actually going to just delete. And none of this in the conclusion refers back to do not pay, so we'll just leave it as is for now. So we've got another element here. Let me do that. Let me pull out technical SEO flows into the keyword research. So there we go. Now you do everyone like that. Do not pay adaptation. Keyword research. Pull that in. Take that out. Yeah, so already this one, just looking at the last line of this section, it connects the dots really between nearly everything that's left in this, talking about backlinks and SEO. Yeah. Anybody else run into this issue when you scroll too far and it doesn't let you unselect? All right. Let me do that. Now we got it. Do not pay adaptation. Backlinks, technical SEO, take. This is another almost 2,000 words. Well, actually, we're going to take this top out here. Frame. Hot take on backlinks and technical SEO versus pure focus on content production or scale. Okay, so now we've got, I took most of this out. We have an outro, that we can add to that last one, because we got resources at the top. We can add some more resources at the bottom. So this is going to be the most cohesive one on SEO specifically. The other one that's the only other one that's longer is the scaling the content team, but these have much more to do with SEO strategy specifically. So from this doc, we might be able to work this one in here somewhere. So let me add that in. All right. So I took everything out of the original doc, split it up into 4 different docs for 4 different pieces. One is very much the case study focus. It's now about 1,300 words, so we're off to a good start. This second one is on building a content team and scaling your content production. A lot to work with there, because I really do think it's a great deep dive on how they've gone about it, and obviously they've had a great amount of success with it. So I think content marketing community and agency community as a whole will benefit from this if we can clean it up, which I don't think I'll get to today. I'm going to focus on the case study itself. One on keyword research, which is pretty short how it stands, but I think we could probably expand on that to get a little more in depth in how to. But it doesn't need to be that much longer. I think like 900 to 1,000 words would be enough to kind of do a quick hit on not just keyword research, but the frame I'd have here is optimizing for efficiency or doing more keyword research faster. Aim at either micro agencies or small content teams or content teams of one, because this is a great how-to. There's some stuff I didn't know here because SEO isn't my main focus. And then the fourth one is the take on backlinks and technical SEO, which there's some great points in here about, look, like their client Doggypedia getting basically just as much traffic per page as another site with the highest domain authority or domain rating and many, many, many more pages. So I really think there's four pieces here, but let's go back to the do not pay instance specifically and see what we can do there. All right, so we're working with a screenshot here to start with what scale looked like. We've got some earned media proof here. I'm gonna just start by separating these out. This part will probably move down to below do not pay to kind of set up the context of what the opportunity was. All right, for now, so I'll work through this, but for now, let's focus on the top part. Do not pay has grown from 0 to 1 million plus organics a month in 24 months. We already have an image here. This might just be a personal preference, but I am not a huge fan of just a ton of images. I feel like there's a line. You want to break it up, but I feel like when you just throw things like headlines in, it just makes it feel messy. So I'll add comment there, link to news source. Break these up. Okay, so I'm going to switch these two. And maybe this is a little too traditional of me, but I like the idea of starting with the story, who the founder is, what Do Not Pay is, what they do, and then jump into kind of what the problem statement was, or in this case, not really a problem statement, but what the opportunity was for search. We have a link there, so we don't need the image. Here's where we have the image for scaling traffic. So this is a good spot to drop in where we start talking about traffic itself. Okay, now we'll do more of the traditional editing here for racking up one too many parking tickets. An 18-year-old, let's say 18-year-old Josh Browder created Do Not Pay to help automate the dispute process. Since then, Do Not Pay has helped hundreds of thousands of users dispute tens of millions of dollars in parking tickets. And then, so this was a theme here. It's very much like snappy sentence fragments as paragraphs, which I get the argument for, like, if it helps you rank, it helps you rank, but it's not a great reading experience, and it can come off as amateurish. Hopefully don't ruffle any feathers with that phrase, but I mean, this will appeal to a certain type of audience, but if you're trying to bring in new clients that are especially in B2B space or software, like Do Not Pay, I think making it a little more cohesive and professional makes a lot of sense. So instead of things like this or things like this, you kind of need to bring it together into paragraphs and at least sentences that flow. So here I just say, since then, Do Not Pay has helped hundreds of thousands of users dispute tens of millions of dollars in parking tickets. Maybe this is a little melodramatic, but I'll say, but they didn't stop there. They've also built dozens of other features to help subscribers navigate government bureaucracy and fight back against corporations. All right. Here are just some of the things Do Not Pay helps their users accomplish. Filing for unemployment, yeah, that's a long list of things that one app can cover. Need a little bit of a connecting point here with this, with these, with this wide variety of features. Do Not Pay's founder was deemed, that sentence was just a little awkward, so making it a little more direct instead of passive. Do Not Pay's founder was deemed the Robin Hood of the internet by BBC and recognized by the American Bar Association for access to justice efforts. I'll just say, leave it at recognized by the American Bar Association for access to justice efforts. It's also probably a good opportunity for a joke here, like much to the annoyance of, what are their names? Vlad and Baiju. It might be a little too esoteric of a reference, but these are the founders of Robinhood, the app. So anytime you can work in jokes, I'm a big fan of that. Let's see. January 2020. So this is an old screenshot. I'd update this to kind of, okay, now we're getting into the meat of the case study. How do not pay connects with 1 million plus potential users through SEO, something like that. It's a little unwieldy. I would maybe come back and change that again, but for now, if I'm doing this live, I'm trying to do it in 30 minutes and we're at 26 already, that'll do. Do an update screenshot to end of year 2021 or January 2022 so that it matches. We just had 3 different numbers going here. The screenshot showed one, less than 200,000 because it was back in, it was 2 years ago. The other headline said 500,000 plus, and then the copy said 1 million plus. So just want to make sure those all match, and you just use the most up-to-date number because that's the most impressive number. And then we need kind of a frame here. So something like with their focus on providing critical services to individual consumers, do not pay needed a scalable way to build their top of funnel. I don't know what kind of discussions there were about PPC or what kind of paid search they're running, but potentially a follow-up sentence or two on importance of SEO, both for scalability, cost versus PPC, paid search. Just to fully kind of contextualize why they're going down. I'm sure they invested quite a bit with content distribution to run SEO, so why they're going down this route specifically versus something that's a little more direct response. They started working with contentdistribution.com to we'll leave it like that for now. They started working with contentdistribution.com to scale their organic reach. Just 2 years later, Do Not Pay has grown from 0 to 1,000 organic visitors each month. So just making that a little more conversational, direct, full sentences, to kind of set up the whole case study that we're talking about here. So this, we've run into the kind of punchy one-line or sentence paragraph or sentence, sentence fragments as paragraphs. We'll want to combine this somehow. So we'll say today the do not pay domain has over 120,000 keywords on page 1. And has raised this. They've been valued at 2 in their most recent, sorry, I'm doing this live again. Their most recent fundraising round, they were valued at 210 million. And this part, I mean, I would probably, in this case, revisit with the client, but because it's a pretty bold statement, but it makes sense with how much content is going out to say that the content helped drive the valuation. So I just kind of walk that line carefully, but you can say something like largely thanks to consumer-facing content they've published on a consistent basis. And do link to. Here we can link to the news article. If you want to leave this line in about one of the best SEO campaigns ever, I think it's maybe a little too self-congratulatory for a case study, but for the sake of argument, we'll leave it in and just say to like add a little nod in there, like I'm not overselling it to say that this project has been one of the best SEO campaigns ever, and do not pay. Did it with exactly 0 full-time SEOs. This isn't an SEO case study. It kind of is, because a case study on creating more value for searchers than any other page Google could show at scale. That is an SEO case study, so you're kind of splitting hairs at that point. So it feels a little silly to say it's not. So we'll delete all that. We brought it up into the paragraphs above. How? Classic one question paragraph, by creating more value for searchers. Searchers feels like an awkward phrase to me. Creating more value for more valuable content for consumers than any other page Google could show, and at a scale typically only seen in media outlets. It's not a 5,000 word monster anymore, so taking these out, keep reading to know everything you know about SEO is a lie. That's a good line, but not for this one anymore. That can go in the backlinks and technical SEO. We'll add it here as kind of the jumping in point for that one, but leave it off of this one. All right. So we got the intro done. I'm at 35 minutes. Let me dig through a little bit more if I can. I'll try to stop at 45. So now we've got proof up top, the story from the customer, what they do, and then a little bit of a connecting point here on why SEO was so important to them. I think it still would be worth to talk about paid search versus organic search here a little bit and what went into that decision, if you have the info. And then a pretty short intro for the rest of the case study. All right, let's see what we can do with the rest of this. The best SEO campaigns don't look like SEO campaigns. You're probably familiar with how we've taken 4 projects without building new backlinks and without doing technical BS. If that's the first time if this is the first time you're hearing, let's catch up. Okay. I think we keep like this context in, but almost treat it as a little bit of an aside, and just like contextualize how content distribution works. So this, the header makes sense. I just switch this up a little bit and say, the contentdistribution.com team is focused on creating quality content at scale for our clients. We've taken 4 projects, client projects from 0 to 100K plus organic visitors each month. But here's the important part. We've done it without building new backlinks and without putting a finger on technical SEO. Working with Do Not Pay was no different. ... I'm going to leave this open-ended because you don't want to sit here and watch me write, but I'd add a little bit more context on what the initial conversations with Do Not Pay looked like, where the focus was, and what their strategic objectives were. And again, hopefully I'm not being too traditional here, but it makes sense to talk about the customer and then set up a little bit more context around why they ended up working with content distribution in the first place. So I'd add that above there. And then we get into the specifics of what the actual opportunity in the project looked like. So we've got, the world is full of unique products that never get discovered. Do Not Pay helps a very specific set of people during a very specific time frame. I think that first line is unnecessary. Really jump right into potential Do Not Pay users might just have received a parking ticket and don't want to pay it, might want, just keep the consistent voice here, might need to request a refund, might want to cancel, might qualify for compensation or missed delayed flights, or might need, and then a little bit of a wink here too, go on and on. Just look at list of do not pay features from above. You get the idea. A yearly subscription for do not pay is $36. Means reaching users at their time of need is critical. Not really sure how these two connect. They feel like two different statements that we need to expand on. So we'll do I'll do ... ellipses. Sorry, I just say ... So it makes sense to include both. And when you're talking about yearly subscription at $36, so it's a very low price point, which means they need to reach lots and lots and lots of users. I imagine they're not selling into businesses yet. I haven't looked at the company, so they just need to scale their customer base by a lot. And then this second is more on, basically sets up the whole SEO case study, that people are searching for specific things at a specific time and they need to find the resources and then convert from that page, which kind of sets up what their whole strategy was here. So it makes sense to include both of these, but they're not really, it's worth expanding on each and treating them each as their own kind of separate points. On why scaling customer base at a low price point was important and how SEO played into that. I'll leave that comment. And then reaching users at their time of need is critical. Organic search gave do not pay the unique opportunity to so I think with adding those two in, then we'll be at a good point to kind of set up this big picture of opportunity. All right, I'm going to stop there with the inline edits. Hopefully you get a good idea of kind of where I'm going with making this whole thing a little more cohesive in paragraph by paragraph and section by section. There's a lot more we could do that with the strategy part, maybe condensing these a little bit. I like the examples, but it just condensing it a little bit. So I would do similar edits in this section. Then content production is the biggest bottleneck to big outcomes. The one big note I saw here, which I'll leave in, is in that when I looked at when we had all 5,000 words in a single doc, I didn't really see this point revisited. And it feels like the first part of a good point. Like, okay, if we're putting out 100 pages a month, which is very high velocity for pretty much any company, it's still going to take us 8 years to meet this kind of localized long tail approach that we talk about here. So it says we would need 8 years, but then you don't revisit it. So then it sounds like you're leaving it hanging and saying to get to where we want to be, it's going to take 8 years. When really you want to be saying we found a way around it, but we found a way to prioritize keywords, for example, based off of volume and intent, and figure out where to meet in the middle there, or just switch this a little bit to say, like, look, there's a ton of opportunities, so we needed to scale content fast, and then that sets up the rest of the case study as well. So I'm going to leave this comment real quick. Bear with me for a second. You don't revisit this point later in the case study. Need to connect the dots either by one, instead of pure volume, we found a way to prioritize keywords based on volume and intent. Intent meaning they're most likely to convert. So I'm talking super long tail keywords versus volume where you're getting more people in. Or we knew we needed to scale content fast to keep up with demand. Now, after 2 years, Do Not Pay is well on its way to ... As kind of a example. Yeah, that as an example. So that was the one big picture one for these first two sections. Yeah, and then this gets into the keyword section specifically. All of this the rest of it is about keywords, and we're still only at below 1,500 words. So I'm just going to add the sections I think would be helpful to the bottom of this. I would apply pretty similar feedback as I gave in the first third of the article to these sections, just making it more cohesive instead of like overly punchy paragraphs and sentence fragments, cutting out things that might not feel necessary or repetitive, and then you could probably cut it down by 20 or 30% there. But this kind of stuff is great because it gets specifically into what the keyword research and strategy looked like. So to end, since now I'm over 45 minutes, I'm going to say additional sections to include, and we'll say, let's see, we had stuff on backlinks and technical SEO, which doesn't feel super relevant to this because it's the whole thing is saying we didn't touch that and it's not necessary. So that feels more like a thought leadership piece in the SEO space rather than something that affects this case study. And then what was the other one? Scaling content production. So you have keyword research already above. Dig into scaling content production for consistent, high quality pages each month at 100 articles a month, which is no mean feat. So I think kind of a deep dive into that would make a lot of sense. Not quite as deep as what we have here at 2,000 words, but basically taking elements of these. So what we do with our CMS, how we find articles, writers, what goes into our briefs, how we make sure it stays up to par and is quality. Take elements of these and do a condensed version essentially that is specific to Do Not Pay. Here's how we built this project out for Do Not Pay. Take elements from the scaling content production content team doc and adapt shorter sections that are specific to the Do Not Pay project. Okay. We had scaling, we had keyword research, and we had backlinks, technical SEO. So you mentioned scaling, so I'd look at from what I saw, there's a lot on keyword research and how you came up with 36,000 potential keywords, but not a lot on what prioritizing those keywords looked like. Keyword or topic prioritization for the biggest possible impact for Do Not Pay in the shortest amount of time. And then I would do, you have results essentially already up top. So instead of a results section, I'd say something along the lines of measurement and adaptation along the way. How did you get things to rank quickly? How did you assess what was ranking, not ranking, and adapt accordingly? And then what kind of client communication and updates looked like? If you can get any quotes from Do Not Pay to work in with, especially this section on content production and this section on measurement and adaptation, that'd be great and make it a little more impactful to have their perspective included. All right, I'm going to leave it there. We have 3 sections to add. With taking this down to 30%, or taking 30% off, we should be at like 11 or 1200 words. So then adding these sections in would make it probably close to 2000 words, which feels much more manageable, especially because it's very broken up with outcomes, opportunity, strategy, keyword research, content production, and measurement. So then now we're working with 2,000 words. That is very much more case study specific and not 5,000 words that feels like it jumps from all of these disparate topics, interconnected but a little disparate. All right, we'll stop there. We're going through it tonight live, so I'm looking forward to talking through that as well. Thanks. Bye.